So here's our project for the theme song for Taboo. And it's pretty simple, as you can see. There are not many tracks involved. And it's 2 repetitions of the same pattern at 110 BPM. So let's have a listen. So that is the track, and let's get into it. So the opening instrument, you can see, is a glockenspiel. So under orchestral tune percussion, glockenspiel. And it's quite bright. The Logic version of it is pretty bright. So what we did was we just took out all the high end in an EQ and sent it to a reverb. And in this case, we picked large spaces, halls, Prince Hall 1. Pretty nice reverb for this. Sent quite a bit of it. And this is how it sounds. That's the rhythm section of it. Quantize it to 1/8, but the strength is only 60%. And I kind of explain why later. And this is the melody section of the glockenspiel. We used a different track for it because then we can control the relative volumes of the rhythm and the melody. Same thing, same instrument, same EQ, same bass, just slightly different levels. As you can see, this is slightly softer, this is slightly louder, and this is how it sounds. You can see some of it is kind of out of time. Although we quantize it to 1/8 with a strength of 50%, I purposefully pushed some of the melodic lines sort of off the track a little bit because it sounds better for instruments like this to have a little bit of offset. Just have a listen. So it's better to have the kind of like, rather than them playing the exact note at the same time, it sounds really mechanical. And this has that music box feeling to it. So it's nice to sort of push notes around to get the right feel. And that's the whole pattern for this, which turns out is the exact same pattern in the second bit, except that the other instruments come in. And these are all the string, orchestral string instruments. So let's have a look. The first one is under orchestral strings basses pizzicato, and it's just a bass pizzicato like this. It tends to be common for arrangements like that to have a bass pizzicato. It works really well, and you can see that the quantized strength is also not perfect. So what we want to do with all these orchestral parts is not to quantize it too hard, but enough to sort of make it sound good. And then we have an EXS strings 2 here. I picked EXS strings because it has this mellow sound about it that worked better than the other strings. So it's this section here. So this counter melody, right, is playing really soft, because I find that the samples on EXS string 2 at this soft section has that nice legato feeling about it. So I picked EXS strings 2, and you can see there's a little bit of automation right at the end, but we'll get into the other string ensemble automations later on. Now, we have a string ensemble, and that's basically under orchestral strings, string ensemble, and that's playing sort of like a cluster of pretty close notes. So you can sort of feel it breathe a little bit, go up, go down, go up, go down, and a little bit of dynamics here. And that's really important for sort of like string, sort of long string lines that are fairly close together. And that sort of gives it that string section. We don't have to separate it into the whole, like, you know, violin, violas, cellos here. I think whatever works is the way it works best. So if you put just the strings together, and essentially I paired it with a choir under orchestral choir, mixed choir, and I just pulled the string ensemble track down here. So it's playing the same thing as the string ensemble, and here's how it sounds. So that breathing that you hear is also from the automation that you have, and so that's why this kind of, I would call it pad style instruments, the automation is really important, so I'll give it some life about it. And at the very intro, when the strings come in, there's this high violins that sound like this. A bit like a breathing type thing as well, because we bring it in and then we take it out. And it's under strings, violins, one legato. That sounds pretty okay. It's not too harsh. I added a bit of gain plugin and added 1.5 dB of gain because I felt after the automation I needed some adjustment of volume. So that's how you do that with automation. There are other ways to do it. I find that this is the simplest one for me. And that's how the violin sounds when it comes in. Here's how it sounds. And that's pretty straightforward. But notice at the end, if you open up this, press this little button here, you see the tempo. Now the tempo has sort of a curve over here. So if you press T and open up the tempo meter, you'll see that there are different tempos at different sections. You can always create a new tempo by pressing plus. So that creates one of these colored dots here. And you can actually adjust the numbers here, or you can just pull them up or down here. So you can see that these slow down from 110 to 84, so here's how it sounds. And then it slows down. So you could even drag it even more if you wanted that kind of writ kind of feeling, kind of slow down. The great thing is you can still work with the bars and you can muck around with the tempos to get the exact feelings that you want. So you can actually just pull these lines back or move the little curves around. It's up to you. So it's fun to play with. Get a project and play around with it and see how you like playing around with tempo. And that's about it for this track.